So I'll let the rest stack for a little while and we will get started. I'm sharing my screen right now and I'm on a student called student name. Assignments are here. Then I move into my college list. I have all three of the college list tabs showing. You may rearrange your tabs as you see fit. You do that in your settings menu. I'm going to go to the counselors list and I'm going to do a brief refresher on how I'm moving schools to the counselors list. And then I'm going to promote up through the app tracker. I am on the counselors list and I'm going to use this button and then I would add colleges by name. Of course, you can also add colleges to the database if you needed to do that. I'm going to go to search. What I traditionally do is that I go to my database because I've created a ton of lists. Every time I have built a list for a student, I have then tagged that list and I will just pull that list forward. And because CounselMore has been updating the data in the background, I can produce a list in about 30 minutes. If you are using the search, then I will tell you what my cheats are. My cheats are admissions rate. And then my next cheat is that I go to the region because most of my students, I don't know, I'd go anywhere. So what I do is I choose the Northeast and the Far West, and then I omit where it is that that student is not going to go to school. Not going to go to school in Nevada, not going to go to school in New Hampshire. And that's how I cheat my list. You'll see that colleges are already coming up with green check marks, and that means that they've already been added to the students list. And now underneath each one of these banners, attributes, campus attributes, sometimes I will go all the way through the data with the student and just say, is that interesting to you? Is that interesting to you? And pull over columns to the list because you can always delete those columns directly from the list. So let me demonstrate. So for the counselors list, I'm really at the college profile. So I'm choosing columns in here. When I click on the icon, the single head icon, that always indicates the counselor. And you'll notice this icon matches this icon that tells you how many columns you've turned on in the counselors list. And it matches, of course, this icon of the list. So if I want to turn on college description for the counselors list, I usually spend most of the time in the profile and in the admissions review, application analysis. Is there a definition for each one of those data points? Yes, there is. And that is go to your help and search the word glossary. That's probably the easiest way to find it. You have a knowledge base, and in your knowledge base, you'll find a calendar of when data is updated. You'll find a glossary of data terms and definitions. We purchase data from Peterson's. I'm going to close and return to the counselors list. I did turn on that college description column, and we're going to see that right over here. Whenever you turn on a new column, it will always be all the way to the right. The other good practice that I'll want to mention is not to turn on every column because students just drown in information. And you don't have to have every column on because you can easily just delete a column, let them examine the 5 so that you can sort of make your point. Also, you can turn on specific columns and then turn on search for your student as another way of proving your point. Right. So like when a family's like, oh, but they have the best facility, the best athletics facility. Like, yeah, but you're going to graduate in 7 years. Their data view helps me prove my point. Okay, so I have my column all the way over to the right. I'm going to click, hold, and drag and bring that column all the way to the front. And that's how I'm going to organize my columns. If I want to compare 2 schools, and I'm looking for something very specific in that data column, like if you've ever pulled over the list of sports, like women's sports or something, then you'll notice that there's just a whole lot of acronyms listed in there. If I had acronyms I needed to search, there's 3 bars at the top, usual logics, and then I can search for wrestling, you know, whatever you're trying to pull out of that column. So only the schools that have that particular acronym or whatever you're searching in are going to be visible to you, so that that way you can quickly notate them and release your search, do something else. If you are thinking, well, I'm on my counselor's list, and what I want to be doing is I want to be taking my own little notes about why it is that this is a good fit for this student. Well, then I'm going to go over here, back to my college data menu, notes. So we have notes to student, and I'm going to turn that on in the counselor's list. So you'll see that I just used that search bar at the top to find that data that I knew that was there and I needed to resource again. So now I'm going to turn that on and I'm going to close, and now we will see notes to student. I'm going to use my notes for student in order to indicate what it is about that particular school that I find is a match for them. I can then additionally add that to the students list and then add a column for student research. So the student can put their notes right next to my notes about each school. Okay, so I have these schools. Another thing that's available on the counselor's list is our counselor's opinions column. If you've never experienced this column, you're going to click the eyeball and then you're going to read what your colleagues have to say about that school. I've seen lots of people asking questions back and forth. Your links column. I'm going to click the pencil. I'm going to add any resource to this school. To promote a school to the counselor's list, I am going to click on the graduation cap. The grad cap corresponds to the grad cap, and that promotes the school forward. We're on the students list. Now my student can see any schools that I have now added to the students list. My student can now move these schools around by dragging, or the student can change the number. Now, if the parents are marking that, or if the student is saying they don't like it, then I'm going to see these ratings back here on the counselor's list. But if my student were to say heart, I will see the heart on the counselor's list, but the heart will push it forward to the app tracker. You'll notice that once we get to the students list, I have columns that change color. There is a column of data that's called minimum recs and secondary courses. I look there and I ask my student to go through their transcript and tell me, are you prepared? Given the recommendations that the school is making, are you prepared? And to do that, I'm going to say, please review your transcript and save. Now I'm going to click the clipboard. The clipboard's going to generate an assignment for me. That assignment has Barnard College, secondary transcript status, so it's specifically telling him what he needs to do. I invite the parent and the student into the portal right away. I make them active, I invite them, and I say, you put in all the information that you possibly can to the best of your knowledge, so that way I can do homework on that student before we meet. So it's likely that I've already asked them to upload their unofficial transcript and their high school profile, if they had one or could find them, into their shared folder. When they do that, I then can click here and I can connect that to those two resources. Now I'm going to create this. I could do things here, but it's easier on the other screen, so I just want to show you there. So I'm going to create. And now here I have that assignment. I'm going to choose the audience. For transcripts, I choose family as well, because they also need to be convinced between the high school profile, the transcript, and their aspirations. So I give them some room to sort of convince themselves, let them get their feet on the ground. Then I want to turn on the assignment. When is the start date for this assignment? Just because I created it today, I may not want to turn it on today. I'm now going to go back to my students list, and I'm going to work through the next school, review for this school too, and I'm going to generate an assignment and create Amherst student He doesn't need to do everything in 1 week. I don't want to overwhelm him. So we're going to do that next week. So now that I have a date here that is today, and I have a date for next week, I'm going to move these around for myself so that I can put those in order. You'll notice that I have turned this on, this little button. So what happens is it then doesn't sort by due date, because I don't have any due dates, but it will sort this way, so I can just click, hold, and drag. So now I've turned on one and plan to turn on the other one in a week. I'm going to go over to the students portal because I want to be sure what I turned on. I have turned these two on, and now I can email those out to the student. Let's go back to the counselors list. We'll see that in my status columns, I have green clipboards. Those are now telling me that an assignment is live. It's over there attached to this particular status. So that way I know, oh, well, if I'm going to go and update things, or if I want to do things, maybe I should go and get rid of that assignment and generate a new assignment, or maybe I should just pull my jets and the kid will catch up to me. When I do that, I then change these colors because I know for me, red, yellow, green. Yellow for me means it's in the works, it's in progress. Then I will move on to essays and other prompts. And I check my question marks. And then I will say, okay, I've got these that are updated. So essay status, again, I can generate assignments if I like. I have links. There's that comparison report I mentioned a moment ago, and then of course the rest. So let's say that I have told the family that Barnard is not a good fit. But let me just document and cover my butt right here in our conversation. And when mom wants to talk about Barnard again, I'm going to encourage her to leave her notes to me specifically about Barnard. So anything that you want me to know specific to Barnard, we're going to keep it here. We're going to sequester it in your parent portal, student list, discuss column. Now all of our college conversations, they're not going to get confused. So if you're not doing that, I encourage you to try it out. Okay, so now I am turning this to a heart. I've turned this to a heart. Let's turn this to a heart. These have now promoted to the app tracker. Now, as soon as I get to the app tracker, these are the schools that we know. So my first assignment to him is this common app portion completed. Let's go back to that common data, to the college data set. And you'll notice that you have custom columns and app status columns. These aren't the same thing. And the difference is, one, your students can be individually assigned and then could manipulate. The other is ones that you're tracking specific to the school. So if I make custom columns, which is available in all of your accounts, if I make custom columns, I'm going to make columns that are related to things that I want to track about a school. So if you are tracking GPA per major at specific schools where it matters, that's where you're going to make a custom column and you'll put in the majors' GPAs. The other custom column is then my application strategy and status column. Now, why do we call it application strategy and status? Status is just going to tell me where it is, and I'm going to generate those assignments off of that. But strategy, because we also want you to contemplate that when you are pulling over all of the deadlines, you could make a custom column that talks about your deadline strategy or your chosen deadline. For instance, if you were to tell the student, this column is our agreed upon deadline. So I will put all of the deadlines onto the app tracker. I'm going to go to application guidelines. Here are all my deadlines over here. I haven't turned them all on. I've turned on the special 3. Let's just leave the special 3. I'm going to close that. And now we see that I have all of these deadlines. And now I'm going to talk to the student about this, right? And I have that strategy conversation with them there. I then have my column here, chosen app deadline, that I've created. You can call yours whatever you like. And then I will put in here what the student and I have agreed upon. So once I've made these choices and decisions with the students and it's documented here, I can generate an assignment, right? Even if it's not an actual something that they have to take action on, right? But I could generate the assignment because that piece of information is going to get spoon-fed through email to both mom and student. So there's all of our agreements. I'm now reminding you, and now let's say if I were to send them an email with only the assignments related to deadlines on it, chosen app deadline, right? So it's going to say Amherst College, chosen app deadline, and then it's going to have our notes. We're all pretty firm on what we're going to be applying to this week, right? Or this semester. All on the same page. Now that we've done that, I'm going to remove all of these. It doesn't matter. It does not matter what the deadline is. I don't care what the deadline. I have it memorized, believe me. But you don't need to know. We don't need to look at this app tracker deadline anymore. The only thing you need to know about is that we said October 15th deadline. I've generated my assignment. Let's go do that. We're clear. I'm going to turn that on right away. I'm going to go back to the app tracker. I'm going to click, hold, and drag and snap it over here by fit. Now, as we move throughout our app tracker, let's not lose sight of our deadline. And then, of course, as we get closer, I will change the color. My Common App portion, once the schools have made it to the app tracker, I want you to go initiate a Common App. We are going to use what we've prepared in the biographical banners. We're going to export that directly into the student's Google Drive. So now I'm on the app tracker and I have Common App portion completed. I'm going to generate an assignment for that. And because we have exported the biographical banners, I'm going to link to that in the student's share folder so that they can go get that started. So I'm going to say open and complete common area of Common App. Let's generate that assignment. I can link to what's the resource there, but also I may want to add a link, but I have created a video about the Common App for my students. And I just link to that. So now I'm saying go complete the Common App. Here's your biographical banners that we've already completed. So all you have to do is copy and paste, come back to me next week. So I'm going to turn that one on. Great. Now I am at essays and other prompts. So again, I'm just going to check. Make sure, yeah, we're moving forward. If you see a school and you're like, wow, I gotta get on this. We don't update every single essay. We only do it for the top 400, and that covers pretty much everything. But you can always correct your own data, and you can do that directly in the app by data correction, or you could just email support, whatever you like. If you are an agency and you have like massive schools, we have a very large agency that each year they come in and the schools that they serve are not just the top 400, they serve far beyond that. So they come to us with their specific schools and then they go through custom development and they just ask our data detectives to do a project for them. CounselMore is your full partner. So if you're ever like, wonder how I can do this, you should really just email support and ask and say, I'm thinking about doing this. Any ideas? Truly. So now that I'm on essays and other prompts and I know I'm moving forward, I'm going to generate documents into the student's Google Drive folder with the contents of each cell. So let's do that one more time. So we have more than one document in the folder. I'm going to go to the Students Files tab. And I see that CounselMore has created a folder for me called essays. So I'm going to launch that folder. I know I'm in the students' Google Drive folder because I can see the breadcrumbs. And now I have each school. Let's go take a look at Babson. What is Babson's asking this year? Oh, 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 oh. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. Look at that. They are just openly taking them in January. Wow. That's really interesting. I was not aware of that. Cool. All right. So then I'm probably going to say, note January enrollment choice. Nice. Because your GPA is a little low, but we might have a chance. You can be on the B list. Then I will move forward. I will generate an assignment for the test policy. Of course, I want to link to their test scores that I've already asked them to upload into their file. Link, 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 generate, generate, generate. And moving forward with letters of recommendation, and so on, and so on, and so on. Then, of course, I maintain my discuss column, my notes to student column, and then I also have my application outcome columns. How do you save that to the database? How do I save the custom? Elaine, tell me.
That was
yeah.
When you made that list, there a whole bunch of us are texting like, you have so much more functionality than we ever use. You have to do this all the time. It's amazing. But you created a list in the beginning, and then you showed me in your database all these lists that you have. How did you save that list to the database? How did you name it and save it, and how will it appear later? That was amazing.
That's a fantastic question. Okay, so what she's talking about is I was on the counselors list. I went to this menu, and then I went to search, and then I went to my database. So CounselMore gives you all of these lists, and then you can take possession of the list. So if this was not imported already, then it would say import. This little button would be blue down here, but I've already done that. See, art technology, art technology. So now that it's over here and I show results, I can now look at that list and now just pull all of those schools over. But how did I make the list? So back to the counselors list, my tags column, best technology. So every time I make a list for a student, every time I make a list for a student, I tag it with their hook. Was I looking for art technology? Was I, looking for good LD? What was I looking for? And I just tag that list. And the great part is that as soon as I double click in there and I start typing, then anything that has that beginning in it is going to appear. So that way I don't have a bunch of tags that don't sort of all connect to each other. I can start to type a couple of words and say, well, did I name it art? What did I name that thing? And then it will help me to sort of consolidate my types of lists. But yes, that's how I do it. If you have a multi-license account, all of your counselors can also contribute. If you have a manager suite, all of your counselors can contribute to the tagging. So we have a lot of lists.
So then do you search that tag later? Like a new student comes along that needs art technology or need blind or whatever it is you have here. When you go into building the list, you type in that tag?
No, when I go to build the list, I go to search, I go to my database, and then I can just turn on any number of these lists that I want to take a look at.
So I make a list for Jimmy because he's photography, and I want to save Jimmy's list.
Okay, then right here, you're going to go to his tags column. Then you're going to tag it photography, photography, photography.
That's great. Thank you.
And then the next time you get a kid and you're like, oh, you like photography? Great. That sounds awesome. Let's just pull up that photography list for you right here. Great. Because
Sports
chances
management,
are,
again, wonderful. I can help you.
exactly. But, you know, like, here's the usual suspects. Let's start there.
Right.
We can open it up or contract, whatever you want. Then you can tell me you secretly want to be a jazz dancer. Sure. But we have to sort of throw some spaghetti at the wall in the beginning just to sort of, you know, open up the possibilities.
And the links and notes that you put there when you did that, are they visible to all the students
Well,
when I have that at school all the time?
that is a great question. So it's available to you and your team all the time, but you turn on the links per student. So, you know, I only want engineering showing to this kid, and I only want poetry showing to that kid. That's how that works.
And what about the notes?
And then your college notes, you can put in whatever you like. You can go to your notes section and you can dictate your notes while you're on tour, which is nice because I really don't like texting while someone's talking. It feels so terrible to me. So that was helpful. Now that I have my notes in there, I can also go back to that my database, and now I can search my notes by keyword. So I have a thing that anytime that I'm on tour and I'm taking notes, my college notes, I always put scholarship in all caps. That's just my little code for myself. So then I will just type scholarships in all caps. And to me, that means I found a scholarship on that campus that was specific to the campus. So that's how I save my notes. So when I put in that keyword, then I get schools on the results screen.
Can I make the meeting notes if I don't click on the mortarboard or the person icon? Can I leave those meeting notes that only I see them?
Or only you and your counselor see.
Okay. And then if I want to have, so I know there was like confidential notes, but then how to locate that later is odd for me. I'm not so good with that.
Your confidential notes for the meeting or the
Yeah.
assignment? Or they both look the
For
same.
the meeting, I'm just trying to keep a record of what we talked about. Like you just did that whole discuss button, but and is that confidential from the student on the parent portal?
The discuss or the confidential?
Both. Well, the confidential is confidential, but the meeting notes, I can keep the whole meeting note system just for me if I want.
Yeah, I don't do meeting notes at all. So my meeting note per person, per student is just my stuff, just random things that I put in there. Also, though, behind the pencil, when I am first talking to them, you know, I'm first having a conversation, I'm not making assignments and doing a whole bunch of things. So that they may be a prospect student to still. So there is these private notes that are always hidden behind an eyeball. So if you were sharing your screen, no one could see those notes. So if you really want to say something about a student that you probably shouldn't say, you probably shouldn't even write it down either. But if you needed to put something there, I'd say that is the place to put it. That's the most secure. Your assignments, you know, you may share with new teammates in the years to come.
Right, right.
So
But
if
just
you
keeping
really
track of what we did and what they need, even if I don't want them to see my notes.
yeah, but you may want to keep like a little profile, you know, meeting notes and title it anything you want. You know, maybe your team, Silicon Valley Therapy, they go through a therapeutic, and then they do financial positioning. My friend Peter's here, and then they go on to college readiness. So their meeting notes are actually a therapy in the beginning, and then they move on to the other pieces.
So
But
you
I
could,
know that those meeting notes aren't shared.
in theory, you could just take your meeting notes and just always click and drag them down. So you would have a chronological place where you could just click, this is what we've done, this is what we've done. I can look back at the
Well,
last meeting and pick up. Yes, I did cover that.
let's talk about assignments tab in a different meeting. because there's a methodology to using assignments that I think is really important. So I like the way that you're thinking, but I don't think that I should take time out to go through
Yes,
the
sorry.
methodology.
Thank you
We could wait till the
so
end.
much.
Oh, no,
So
you
much.
want, oh, I guess we're almost there. Well, we could find some time in our next Friday. Is there a way to shoot them straight over to the student list instead of the counselor list first? Yes, you could just be on the counselor's list and then you could just add schools if you know the names, or you could search and you can just add them there. Yeah, it's my understanding that if you start on the counselor's list, under the help center, there are these choices. So you have those options there. If you go to any one of these, the training schedule brings you directly into the knowledge base. So here's your live trainings. You know, there's the article and then a live meeting for each one. But then you can also search the knowledge base. These sections are broken up pretty well. I have found it fairly easy to find what I'm looking for. Okay, so minimum, we're going to go to the college data menu. And if I type in min, then I will get that and I can turn it on for whichever list I would like to have that on for.
Let's say that you had some notes in columns that you're not changing. Does it start on a clean slate and all those notes are erased in the app tracker? Or does it just add or subtract columns accordingly?
It adds and subtracts columns accordingly. So if you are pulling out a column, though, that information is going to whatever you had in that column is going to disappear, because now you're saying don't have that, you know, status column in Johnny's, right? I wonder though, if you went back to Johnny specifically and turned on that status column, I bet that information would still be there. Yeah.
So if we put in deadlines and things like that, and we're just adding columns or rearranging them, we don't have to necessarily worry that things are going to refresh and all of that'll be gone
Yeah, I don't
for columns
think
we're not messing with.
if you went into an app tracker for a student, put in a bunch of instructions, then went to global and turned on that status, the contents of that cell are not going to carry over. Those are per student. If you are doing a data cell, you've made a data correction, now you've added and subtracted, that will still be there.
Okay. Thank you.
Question. Really good question. How do I know if colleges was added by students or, oh, it's another great question, Unamita. You will have a very discrete yellow dot next to the school. So on that counselor list, so as soon as you see that a school is added, you'll get a notification, but then when you click on that notification, it'll come to the list and then you'll see a little yellow dot.